Hi, Sarah. I just moved you over to a panelist. If you'd like to check your mic and camera now, make sure they're working. I see your camera's up.
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
Yep, we can hear you now too.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, great.
Would you like to have me leave both off in the meantime, or what's your preference?
Yeah, usually off just to cut out any background noise. And then if you're going to be speaking at any time, we would like to have people turn their camera on so they know who's speaking.
Should I keep my camera off until I speak?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
John, I just made you an organizer.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Looks like
Okay.
John Palmer's joining us.
Let's see. It's the only non-staff attendee?
Yeah, so far.
Well, all right then. Well, we should have a full evening then.
Lots of questions to answer.
Lots of questions, yeah. So, hey, remember, let's let the applicant really field the questions, and then we can jump in where we're needed.
Sure.
Just want to make sure that everybody knows it's their meeting, and we're here to provide tech support.
Are we doing the thing where you're reading comments and questions still?
Yeah, I think so. That seems to be,
okay.
I guess, pretty efficient, even no matter what the circumstances are. But we should probably do that this meeting. If we need to rethink it for any reason, we can do that for the next. Okay, looks like we got a couple more.
I just added Aaron and Cassie and Katie as panelists. If you guys want to test out your mics and your cameras.
Hi.
Hey, Cassie, I see you're on camera now. It sounds like your mic works.
All right, excellent.
Hey, Jacob.
Is that Aaron? Hey, Aaron.
Yes.
I see you as well. Oh, let me see who just joined. Brad, you don't recognize a Dave Manley or a Laurel Zaski from your team? I don't see them on the list.
I don't. Unless they're recent hires, I don't recognize them.
Okay. Yeah, we were joking around about a citizen who likes to join lots of neighborhood meetings.
Is he on tonight?
He is on tonight, yes.
Oh, great. That's perfect.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be doing, so.
Oh,
All right.
we usually just do a camera check and a mic check before the meeting, and
Okay.
yours are both working. So
Okay, can I hide myself now?
sure.
Katie, there's one neighbor that we're going to have you field all the questions of.
Are you kidding me?
So
I might start crying, but that's okay. It's been a long day. It's perfect.
you won't have to. No, I'll have Cassie do it.
Really?
Chase, I just made you a panelist as well, so you should be able to speak and turn on your camera now.
Fantastic.
Molly. Sam. Okay, I just added Molly and Sam too, so they should. Molly and Sam, do you guys want to test your mic and camera?
I am unmuted, so there is an audio test.
I hear you.
Where's my
Can you hear
camera?
me?
Show can.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
You see me now too?
Yep.
Cool.
So just for everybody's information, if you're not actively speaking, you don't feel the need to leave your cameras on. You're more than welcome to. It also helps to not distract from everybody. And if you're not speaking, also turn your mics off as well.
Awesome. Give me a chance to eat.
I see your camera's working too, Chase.
So
Your
see
mic
you,
is on.
Katie. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I'm muted. I had to switch from my laptop camera to the desktop camera. I'm good now.
Okay. We'll probably give it like one more minute, and I've got the time at like 6:02 here, and then I'll get the broadcast started for us.
Jacob, I see that my camera has come on. Can I go ahead and just back on out of here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. And Brad, is there anybody you want me to wait for your team that's not here yet? If you look in the attendees or staff section.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Yep. And Katie, you're still showing. Do you know that?
No, how am I still showing? I don't want to be showing. Good thing I'm not doing anything obscene. Let's see. I'll stop sharing my webcam.
It's off now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jacob Kaza. I'm the project planner assigned to review the Holly Park Preliminary Development Plan and Amendment and Holly Park Official Development Plan Amendment. So I'd like to welcome everybody to our neighborhood meeting for Holly Park. We do have the development team here, both the owners representatives, Urban Land Conservancy is the owner, and then Thrive Home Builders would be the builder on this project, and Brad Wilkin and Sarah Harmon from their teams are here with us. Before we get into the presentation, just a few notes for everybody. First, we do record these, and they are put out on the internet. And whatever comments or questions you share are part of the official record. So we do find that it's productive to keep our comments courteous, and that a productive conversation starts with respect. At the end of the presentation, we'll do a question and answer session. Any questions and comments will be read aloud to the audience, along with the name of the person making the inquiry, so that way people know who's asking, and everybody can hear the comments and questions that others are making. If you have other questions that are not about Holly Park, please feel free to email them to planning@cityofwestminster.us, and we'll get that to the appropriate staff person to answer. And we'll go ahead and continue on with our presentation. So first off, our meeting agenda. Again, I'm Jacob Kaza. I'm a senior planner with the City of Westminster's Community Development Department. I will be starting off the staff presentation, and then I'll be me and John McConnell, our principal planner, will be facilitating the question and answer. So just to go over quick, all the staff who are on the call, let me pull them all up. So we have Aaron Kirshner, he's one of our engineers in community development. Chase Evans is real estate coordinator from our economic development department. John McConnell, I mentioned earlier, our principal planner from community development. Michael Wright, principal engineer from community development. And that's all of the city staff on the call. Brad will come on and do his presentation, and he'll be able to introduce his team as well. You may hear or see from some of these people later on with the call. Oh, and I forgot Molly Taylor, one of our affordable housing coordinators. I'm going to get a position wrong, and she's in economic development as well. So first, city staff presentation, then the applicant will give a quick presentation, then we'll go ahead and do the question and answer period. So for our question and answer period, I'll pull this up again later when we get to that. You'll use the question box inside of the right hand of your screen, or it might be at the bottom of the screen depending on the device you're on. And if you type a question in there, we will read it aloud to the audience, or a question or a comment. Read it aloud, and we'll answer it as necessary, or direct the applicant to answer it. If there's extra time, we'll open it up for live speakers if you have the software that's capable of doing that. You have to be using a computer in order to do the live speaking. You can't use your phone. So Holly Park is located at the northwest corner of 96th Avenue and Federal Boulevard. The project was originally approved in 2000, and 12 of the 70 units were constructed in that original phase. And then the project had financial difficulties and went belly up, and the city bought the project out and has sold it to Urban Land Conservancy for them to build out townhome development. So 58 remaining units would be constructed. It's the same number of units. All that's really proposed to change, and we'll go over this in a bit, is some architecture and the site plan, and a few other items. They're not proposing to change the density count at all, so it's the same density that is already approved. The only thing that they're really changing that is one of the substantial things is it's changing an ownership from a condominium type ownership to a townhome style ownership. So a difference there in how the product would be purchased. It is a for sale product. It is not a rental product. The development applications, and I've got the two up on the screen there in green, they have filed both the preliminary development plan and the official development plan together. They have both finished their first staff review. We did hold a specific meeting just for the condominium owners, the 12 existing condominium owners, so we could understand their concerns and get their feedback and input on the applications. And then we're holding this larger neighborhood meeting, and it's for both the PDP and the ODP amendments. And so that's the item in yellow there together. And so we'll be listening to and receiving any feedback and comments on both of those applications. And then it will go through additional staff review as needed. The preliminary development plan, because they are seeking exceptions to some minimum design standards and decreases to some setbacks, which those two items will require review and consideration by the Planning Commission and the City Council at a public hearing. The official development plan, if the PDP is approved by City Council, then the official development plan could be approved administratively. And lastly, before they could start any sort of construction, they would have to go through a civil construction drawing review and a building permit drawing review, of course. So for the PDP, the items that we're reviewing on that are proposed exceptions to the minimum design standards, setbacks, and then consistency with the existing Holly Park preliminary development plan. As I had mentioned earlier, the development was approved in 2000. There are existing units there. The project is already entitled, and they could go get a building permit and a construction drawing permit now if they wanted to build the exact same thing that's already approved. But because they want to change it some, that's why they're in for review. So on the ODP items that we're reviewing there are things like the drainage, the detention, landscaping, sidewalk connections, entry connections, the pocket park, and the way the units actually look. And then again, reviewing it for consistency with the existing Holly Park ODP. Brad, if you'd like to join me now, I can scroll through your slides if you're ready.
Yeah, great. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. So quick introduction of our team. So my name is Brad Wilkin with Thrive Home Builders. I'm the project manager on Holly Park. And I couldn't be more excited. I think Holly Park is going to be really great. The other folks that are with us, the owner, as Jacob talked about earlier, is Urban Land Conservancy. And I know we have Katie Hulak and Sarah Harmon from Urban Land Conservancy. And then from our team, as part of that team, includes Cassie Caslin of Valerian, who's our landscape planner and landscape architect, as well as Sam Eliason and Nate Stroud of United Civil, who are our engineers. So I'm happy that they're on board too for any questions here in a bit. So I'd love to talk to you just a little bit about Holly Park. First, I think it's important to know who we are. We're Thrive Home Builders. We can go to the next slide. This is our CEO, Gene Myers. Maybe I took that slide out. So we're a healthy, efficient, and local builder. We've been building homes in the Denver area for about 30 years. We pride ourselves on our sustainability and efficiency, including every home that we build is a Department of Energy zero energy ready home. So what does that mean? It just means it's super, super efficient. We build everything with like triple pane glasses, solar panels. This is one thing that we're trying to change from the previous builders' plans. That these are much more up to date. They're actually homes of the future, and they're super efficient. As a practical example, the townhomes that I'm about to show you, we've built before in other areas of Denver, and we've experienced anecdotally that these homeowners experience up to $1,200 of savings on the utility bills per year as compared to a comparably sized market code built home. So it's pretty substantial, and we're really proud of it. We're also, I think the next slide, Jacob, we focus on health. Health is super important, and we spend almost more of our time indoors than we do outdoors. So all of our homes are also EPA Indoor Air Plus certified, and we include active mitigation for radon in all of our homes, and we think about things of low VOC paint and what types of drywall we use. We find that folks with asthma really love our homes because they can breathe easier in our home as compared to some of the other national builders. So we're really proud of being local, efficient, and healthy. So move on to a little bit more of what we're planning. And I guess before that, we build in different areas of Denver and have. We've actually in Westminster, we've built Highland Village, and I think that turned out quite beautifully. And we're excited to be able to have the opportunity to build in Westminster again. So let's go to the next one if we could, Jacob. I think many of you know the site probably better than I do. This is in between 96th and 97th, right on Federal, and here's the existing site conditions. We're hoping to build 58 homes, as Jacob had discussed earlier, so we can move to the next slide. And this is just a colorful rendering of the current plan. This continues to iterate based on feedback that we get from neighbors and from the city. So we have a number of townhome buildings between 3 and 5, and we're going through an official development plan amendment with the city. The cool thing that I really love about our plan is that we're providing some public spaces. So there's a darker green area kind of in the upper middle part just north of building 8. That's going to be a public park. So that's totally accessible to everybody. And then similar, there's a really small pocket park in the northwest corner with kind of a semicircle up there. And that's also a public park. So no fences to keep anybody out. It's all inclusive. We want people to visit and be able to drive through the Holly Park neighborhood. So going to the next slide. Just another kind of 3D schematic rendering of what that looks like. It helps provide some answers to like, how dense is this? And that's a really great question, or how is it going to feel? So those block buildings, they don't actually look like that, but those are the existing condos. And then the other homes, of course, are the 2-story townhomes that we are proposing right now. And I think we'll get into a couple more colorful pictures potentially. After this one is just a slightly different view looking north and west. You see the pocket park there and how they align. Here's some, I think they're beautiful homes. So kind of a farmhouse transitional architecture. I will say the thing about showing color on screens is that it can look very different. As part of our application, we have to provide a material and color board to Jacob, and I'm sure if that's available for you all to look at and see the exact colors. If I'm ever on site and I have the color board with me, I'd love to show you. That reminds me, my last slide is my contact information, my cell phone, and my email, and I'd love to meet you. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. I'd really love to talk to you. Here's another couple of buildings. This is a 4-home in one building. On the top, and then the next one is 5 units in one building. We're trying to minimize the 5 units just because they get pretty big, and trying to keep them to 3 and 4 units in a building. So those are just a couple of concept plans. We're making changes as we speak based on comments that we've received from the city, and trying to make sure that we're not asking for too many exceptions. But this is one of the reasons we're changing from what the previous developer had into to this one. And I'll move to the next one. So the beauty of this is that we've built these before, and we've actually built 241 homes just like this throughout Denver, and we've gotten pretty good at it. These are in Stapleton, it's Central Park, formerly Stapleton. And what I would invite you to do, we had a model home that was open up until recently, and that one has since sold. But if you'd like to get a really good understanding of how these work, you can email me and I can send you a link. A couple years ago, we had a salesperson kind of do a video tour of our homes, and I think that she did a really great job. So that's one way that you can see how these look. I do think it's also important to note that these are all for sale homes. They're not for rent. We will be selling these, and I think that's pretty important to note too. I think I'm almost done, Jacob. Here's our website, Thrive Home Builders. I don't do social media, so I don't know exactly what's on Instagram or Facebook. And then, unfortunately, it's on my screen. It looks like my email might be cut off, but I'll just tell you what it is. It's B as in Brad, Wilkin, WILKIN @thrivehomebuilders.com. And my phone number is 303-900-3111. So I appreciate your time.
Jacob, you're muted if you're intending to talk.
Thank you so much. That must have been Aaron. So amazing you could still do that so many months on. So sorry. If anybody needs Brad's contact information, you can feel free to put that question into the chat or into the question box, and I can put it up on the screen for everybody to see. So we'll go ahead and open it up into our question and answer period. So if anybody has any questions or comments about the development, please feel free to add them into there. And then if anybody would like to speak verbally, I believe we should have time. We only have 8 people attending the meeting right now, and it looks like one person is on a phone, so they probably won't be able to participate in the chat function. And then John, if you're available, would you like to read any comments or questions as they come in?
Yes, thanks. So we have a question from JP, 2 questions. First question is, will they be affordable? And then the second question is, what about parking?
Brad, would you like to join us and answer both of those 2 questions, or have someone from your team answer them?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. So affordable, currently the plan is that all of the homes, all the 58 homes would be at least 95% AMI affordable. So affordable to and the 95% AMI or less. And so we're still, honestly, we're working on that and trying to make that work. We would love to get additional grant funds to make the price point lower. That's kind of the goal. And that's the whole purpose of Urban Land Conservancy stepping in and being the owner. If you have an opportunity to go look at their website and look at all the incredible work that they do throughout the city, it's really, really amazing. And we support their mission entirely. We feel very grateful to be part of their team. So yes, affordable is the plan, but 95% affordable is it's, you know, that's a teacher, that's a first or second year police officer. So that's kind of the income range that you would probably find here. And then the second question was parking. So it's a great question. All of these homes have 2-car garages. So every home embedded within the building envelope will have 2 parking stalls within the home. And then there is existing parking along Green Court.
Okay, thanks, Brad. And then there's a couple more questions from JP as well.
All right. The next is, how many taps will they be paying for? So I
could probably answer this one. I don't think I need Brad to jump on. They will be buying 1 single family attached tap per home, and each unit is required to have its own tap. So they would need 58 single family attached taps.
All right. The next question is, will this be an HOA? Will the development have an HOA?
Brad, could you answer that question, or somebody from your team?
Yeah, so the plan is we would create a new HOA for the 58 homes. And so yes, maintenance of the common areas would be maintained by an HOA. And then the owners themselves would be taking care of the exteriors of their homes. So yes is the answer to your question.
All right. And Brad, you may as well stay on. We got a few more here coming at you. Will this be a special tax district?
I do not believe so.
Next is, what is the timeline for improvements of Green Court, and will the units be deed restricted for affordability? If so, what term or in perpetuity? That's from Jordan Zielinski.
I'm actually gonna maybe ask Aaron if he wants to talk about Green Court. Part of it is actually on us. So just because I have consultants and I think that they're smarter than me, I might ask Sam if he wants to talk about the construction schedule potentially for Green Court. And then I think the owner, Sarah or Katie, are probably attuned for the question on the deed restriction, if that's okay, Sarah or Katie, for you guys to answer that one.
Sure. So I'm Sarah Harmon with Urban Land Conservancy. And so I'll just take the question about deed restriction first. Urban Land Conservancy is a nonprofit, and we're really focused on building communities. And one of the tools we use to create affordability is a ground lease. The opportunity of a ground lease as compared to other forms of covenant tools for deed restriction is a ground lease can run 99 years and then has the ability to renew for another 99 years. So we have, as compared to some other ways of creating affordability, our goal is really for long-term affordability. So I hope that answers the question about covenant as relates to affordability. And I think the next, I'll hand off the microphone to talk about Green Court and timeline.
Hey, Sam, if you want, I can go ahead and let you go first because, you know, our construction schedule is kind of contingent on yours, and you can kind of just give us a ballpark and I'll jump in after.
Sure, that sounds good. Hi, my name's Sam Elias and I'm with United Civil Design Group. We're doing the civil engineering for Green Court with the city, and then we're also doing the civil engineering for Thrive in the site. The idea was to combine the construction schedule for both of these projects together. So we hoped we would be able to break ground on the reconstruction of Green Court and any utilities that need to be updated, and along with the construction of at least the surface construction, the roads and the utilities and the drainage infrastructure for Holly Park at the same time. And our thought was that would happen towards like late spring, early summer of next year at this point. Any other questions on that, or?
And then I'll chime in too. Sorry, Aaron. Just as far as you know, Thrive's ability to do that, it is contingent on the entitlement process too. So we have a couple of rounds of probably some planning or city council, I think Jacob can correct me, that we would have to do before we would actually get into a position to go and put you know, the erosion control up and start moving dirt and removing some of the existing like telecom and cable that's on the site. So there's a couple of things that are a little bit out of our control, and that would affect our ability to go and start doing construction sometime next year.
And then I'll just add on the city's portion again. I'm Aaron Kirchner with Community Development and Engineering. And so the city portion of this project, like Sam had mentioned, we're planning to partner with a contractor and Thrive's, you know, development so that we can kind of have everything run at the same time. The idea with this is to minimize, you know, the impact on existing residents in this area. You know, in terms of when construction will start, it's hard to say what part of Green Court will happen first or if Green Court will be first, because once we actually get more information, we're going to have to, you know, stage construction to minimize the amount of impact we're going to have on the existing residents. And I don't know if that, you know, looks like half of Green Court at a time or knocking Green Court out first, or, you know, what logistics are there, because the existing road's going to need some significant work and utility repairs as well. So this will have a cone zone update, and I know once we get more information, I'll make sure to keep that updated. So any updated information will be available there, as long as I'm not aware if Thrive is going to have their own website where they'll be able to track construction updates and information on this or not either.
All right, thanks everybody. Anything else to add to that topic? If not, go to the next question, and it's from JP. Will Green Court be opened up?
I can answer that. Yeah, so the goal is that after the construction is done, that Green Court will be fully opened and ready for vehicular use along the whole portion north to south.
All right, next question is from JP also. What is the HOA cost per unit?
Brad, would you be able to answer that?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. The current estimated cost would be about $150 per month, but it's all kind of in flux right now. The pro forma changes based on what current costs are. But that's the quote that we got from an HOA manager that we've used before.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The next question is from JP. They already have a parking issue with the existing homes now with overflow onto Green Court. How will this be handled?
Brad, would you like to take a stab at that, answering that one first with your team?
Yeah, sure. I think that we are meeting all the minimum parking requirements on the site.
Okay. Next question from JP. Will any be ADA accessible and handicap parking, visitor parking?
I'll defer to you again on this one, Brad, for ADA accessibility.
Yeah, sure. So we'll, I think ADA accessibility is called Title IX within Section 9 of what we're trying to do would include a handful of ADA accessible units. And our goal is always to have those accessible from the front door. And I think it's super important for us to be able to do that for a feeling of inclusion for are really important citizens. So yes, a handful of them will be. All of them won't be very likely, just because there is a little bit of grade on the site, and there will be some steps to get up to the front porches. But our goal is that a handful of these would be ADA accessible.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, team. Okay, here's a question from JP. What is a handful of the 58 units?
I don't have an exact number right now.
All right. And next is a comment from Jordan Zielinski. He says, great project, excited to see it move forward. Any other questions?
We do have a hand up from Kelly Foe. So if we don't get another question, we might give her the opportunity to speak, or at least I'll try to turn on her mic if she has one. John, are you okay if we transition to that?
Oh yeah, I think it'd be a good time to do this. That'll give some other folks some time to think up some questions too, if they have any.
Okay. Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you here. And then if you have a microphone, you should be able to speak.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me, Jacob?
Yes, I can hear you, Kelly.
Thank you so very much. I guess my number one question was, who's JP? And thank you for asking all those pertinent questions. We as homeowners here were not able to text anything or any questions, so I don't know if that was intentional, but who is JP that's asking all these questions?
Well, we'll ask JP if he would like to type his full name into the question box.
Kelly, so you know that when this questioner or this attendee joined, they didn't type in their full name. They just put initials J and P. And so
okay, yeah, that's fine, but we're not able to type in any questions. And so when you open it up to questions, I know I had my hand raised a couple times and then just brought it down because I don't believe we have opportunity to ask the questions. So,
sure. And I'll apologize for that, as we have transitioned for a temporary period to online virtual meetings. The software is somewhat limited in what it can do on certain devices. So I am sorry for that.
Okay, I know Susan Chambers, also our president, is trying to come in as well and ask questions, but again, we don't have the ability to do so. Thank you for opening up unmuting us. And we don't mind waiting till the end and listening to the presentation. If you want to continue, we can wait till the end, but I just didn't see where you were asking, is there any other questions? And it's like, where do we couldn't do so.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And if you are joining from a phone or a laptop or an iPad, it should be a box that kind of has a section that looks like what's up on the screen here. It says question, enter a question for staff. And other than that, it'll oftentimes be in the right-hand side of the screen.
I do see it. Yes, I do see it now. Thank you so very much.
Mhm.
Well, I guess I will just kind of hang back for a little bit and let you guys continue. Thank you. That was my
Okay.
number one question was, who's JP asking all these good questions? And then how do we proceed with being able to ask the questions that we have? So thank you very much.
I would suggest that if there are any questions, now would be the time to ask them, either in the chat or verbally. The developer's presentation is complete, and really we devoted the remainder of the meeting to questions and answers.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. I'm going to step back here and and allow some others to ask questions, and I'll chime in. And I do have some questions, but I'll let the others of the homeowners step in at this point. Susan, anybody? Is everyone unmuted, Jacob, or has the
No,
ability to
sorry, I
speak?
haven't seen anything from Susan asking to speak. I can unmute her though.
If you could unmute her, that might help, because she's
Okay,
texting me saying that she can't.
So I have unmuted her and she's on self-mute. So Susan, if you're there, you're still self-muted.
Well, I'll step in while she's trying to figure that out. Some of the questions Susan had sent out a recap of a meeting that she had with Chase and with, I believe it was Sarah, if I'm not mistaken, last week. And some of the questions that first of all, thank you for the efforts of.
Am I here now?
Oh, there she is. There she is.
Hey.
There you go. Sorry, Susan, give me one more second. I was just thanking that the time spent last week with you, that you gave us a recap of your meeting with Chase and Sarah. So go ahead, Susan, and then I'll chime in.
Well, I think that Jacob, you're from the city. Is that correct?
Yeah, Susan, I work for the city of Westminster.
Okay. All right. So I believe that several issues have been addressed with Sarah and Chase. So I think that moving forward, I don't really have any questions, because you guys mostly just talk about the new development, which doesn't include us. We do have some issues with parking and thoroughways, and we just need to have a clear understanding of when that's going to happen and how we can pull together as a community to make sure that that happens appropriately.
Okay. I can talk with Aaron Kirshner, the engineer who's on that, about his communication plan for the construction. I know, as you may have heard him say earlier, the schedule is not fully constructed as far as what stage of the development or what stage of the road work would happen at which time period. And because it does involve some rebuilding of the roadway in front of your units, I know that will be a large impact for all of you guys. So I'll talk to him about his communication plan, and I believe he does have at least your contact information.
Right. I'm actually in Florida right now, but I plan on meeting with Chase and Aaron sometime next week to kind of reassess what's going to happen. And as soon as we can come to an agreement on those issues, then we're ready to allow you guys to move forward.
Okay. I believe they're both on the call, so I believe sorry, not on the call. They're on the neighborhood meeting. So they'll heard you.
Right, 8 people is not really a neighborhood meeting if it's just us. I can't see who's on the call, but there's only 8 people, probably less now.
Yeah, well, and what the applicant was required to do is to mail out to everybody within 500 feet of the property. So we often don't see a lot of attendance at neighborhood meetings unless they're usually contentious.
Where's the Wishbone people? They should have brought you guys chicken.
Well, if we did it in person, maybe we could. Yeah.
So, Jacob, what is it that that the city of Westminster and ULC actually, what are you requesting from Holly Park, the Holly Park homeowners? What is it that you need from us?
Oh, so at this neighborhood meeting, what we're looking for is feedback on the site plan, feedback on architecture, feedback on the detention locations, feedback on the park design. Anything like that is what the point of this neighborhood meeting is for, is to provide feedback to tell the developer ideas on their development that you think that they should change.
I see. Well, number 1 would be to make us part of the HOA and to make us part of the original. The plan was changed from 2,000 to now change the remaining 58 units over to townhomes and leave us as the condominiums. What we request is that we be made get our individual water meters, and that would make us the townhome to allow us to become part of the new community while giving us our own common area and the upgrades that will be done according to Chase. This is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But yet, hearing what Brad was saying, that the HOA fees or dues for the 58 units is going to be $115. That is low in comparison to what we're currently paying, $225, which does not cover our expenses of 12 units. We barely make our minimal payments out for just trash, insurance, and water, with us just being 12 units. And originally, as mentioned earlier, it was to be in 2000, all of these units were to be condominiums. So it's been changed over. Well, we would like to become part of that change.
Yeah, and I heard that comment when we met earlier, Kelly, and I'm not a real estate attorney or a legal attorney on that. And I believe we've asked ours to look into that. Maybe not the city one, but the ULC may have asked theirs to look into that. My first initial questions are: is that legally possible to change a condominium into a townhome just because it's 2 different types of ownership? And the other one would be, it would be a big amount of paperwork for a developer to do for somebody, because essentially they'd have to get you and all of your lenders to sign on to that agreement. And so, that's collecting signatures from 12 different homeowners and 12 different mortgage companies. And so it's kind of a question as to whether, first, is it even legally possible to do that? And second, could you even get everybody to consent to doing it? And so I don't have answers to either of those two questions, but I know that it is a big challenge to even work on that.
I think the time spent in order to do that would be well worth it for the 12 homeowners that we have, including myself, because again, as 12 units, we can barely make our minimal payments for water, insurance, and without counting any maintenance towards the exterior of our homes, with a 225 homeowners due each month. And that's what's most challenging to us, is that it was originally supposed to be based on the 60. And so this has caused, a lot of trepidation with our community, Holly Park. And I think this is where we're having an issue, and it kind of falls back on the city of Westminster. And Urban Council has, unfortunately for them, had to deal with us because of this. But really, the city of Westminster should have addressed this back in 2000, when it became, the eminent domain of the city, just kind of leaving us in limbo here for these years. And this is, I think we as homeowners in Holly Park are looking for this resolution so that we can become part. It sounds wonderful what Brad's talking about, but he did make a comment there that these new 58 units are going to be energy efficient and health conscious and so forth. That's wonderful. But what about us?
Yeah, and I hear you, Kelly, and I have those concerns all written down in my notes for us to discuss. Yeah. We do have some other questions and comments coming into the chat as well. Kelly or Susan, did you guys have any other questions you wanted to ask?
We'd like to listen to the other questions first.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, if you'd let us.
You don't need to unmute us. We'll be quiet.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I was just going to make sure we could make sure.
No, we'll be quiet when the other questions come in.
Okay. Thanks, Susan.
So next question is from JP. What exceptions from the city are you asking for on this?
That would be for a question for you, Brad. If you'd be able to join me.
Yeah, I'll start, and then maybe I'll ask Cassie if she's still available to chime in too. She helped write the exceptions. So I think that they're pretty minimal exceptions. The ones that I can think about right now are the elevations. So the elevations is how the home looks. We're asking for those to look different than what was proposed 20 years ago. Part of that is we're asking for an exception for masonry. We would rather spend the $10,000 to $15,000 that it costs to put masonry on a building on energy efficiency, things like solar and more insulation and better windows. So we think that that's a better thing for a community like this, and instead of putting masonry. And we think that the buildings that we've provided are stellar, and so that's an exception. Some little things like overhangs, we're asking for, instead of an 18-inch overhang, we're asking for like a 12-inch overhang, and that's just an architectural preference. Other things that I think are exceptions are there was a sound wall, sound berm that was originally proposed. We think that the way that we construct our homes now are help them live really, really quietly. We've actually had some of the city staff out onto a similar townhome, and it's on a busy road, and they said it's actually pretty quiet in here. And so we're really proud about that. I'll ask Cassie if she can, some of the setbacks are slightly smaller, just so we can, these buildings are, in some instances, the front is a little bit larger than what was previously proposed. Potentially another exception is that instead of having these being front-loaded homes, which they were in the condos, we're doing alley-loaded, so they're loaded from the back, and then they have front porches, which we really like to do. So I see that Cassie's jumped on, and she can talk about some other details that I'm missing.
Yeah, Brad, I was going through the list and you hit almost all of them. I was going to touch on the setbacks just a little bit more. The main reason that we are really looking at some exceptions on a setback standpoint is to better fit the Thrive product onto the existing site. So obviously the previous setbacks were established based on the original architecture, and things have changed, and we're now obviously using Thrive and their wonderful product. So the setbacks just need to be adjusted a little bit to accommodate that.
And Cassie, where are you from?
Yes, sorry, I'm with Valerian. We are the landscape architects and helping out with the planning on this project.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next question is from JP. Who will be paying for the infrastructure, the streets, the sidewalks, water, sewer, and lighting?
So I'll start answering this one, and I'll let Brad jump in if he'd like to. So the city outside of this development is going to be paying for, and regardless of whether this development is approved, the PDP and ODP amendment are approved, the city is going to be replacing on a rebuild of the sewer line that's in Green Court, and that services the 12 existing homes, and will be redoing the surface of Green Court. And there's a few other items that are involved in that, replacing curbs and gutters and some of the driveway tie-ins and such. And if you're interested in a lot of detail, I can get Aaron up here to go over the whole scope. So the city is paying for that portion of the work. Everything else is being paid for by Thrive. And I'm not sure if they have another source of funds outside of them, but they and their lender are paying for it. And Brad, if you'd like to expand on that anymore, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think that was great. And JP, that's a great question, honestly. How do you pay for a development like this? And one, you pay for development like this through the revenues of the homes when you sell them to homeowners. So that's the main way. And then sometimes when it's an affordable project, you go and seek out grant money. And that's the other source of revenue that we're looking into right now. So revenues from homes, and then other sources of money, including grants.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, the next question from JP is, what are the building heights?
Brad, would you like to answer that one?
I think they're 32 feet. So they're 2 stories, and I could look at it specifically, JP, and I can get back to you. But I'm pretty sure they're 30 to 32 feet, 2-story homes. So pretty typical for a 2-story home in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that'd be to the top of the roof line, to the very top
Thanks,
of the peak.
Yep, you got it.
All right, then the next is a comment, and this is going to be my challenge of the evening, pronouncing or not mispronouncing this name, so I'm going to give it my best shot. Jayaram Subramaniam.
His name's Jay.
Jay, okay, that's a lot easier. So, Jay, thank you. So Jay says, I'm one of the homeowners and concur with what Kelly's saying. Thank you. And then the next is a question from JP, fire and first responder access. Where would that be?
Yeah, so I can answer that one. So it is something we're actually actively looking at in the design right now. On just the width of it. Essentially, they would be serviced from Federal, from 97th, from 96th, from Green Court, and then individually up all of the alleys. There are planned to be, if necessary, turnaround points inside of the alleys. Thrive will be putting in additional fire hydrants to make sure that there are appropriate distances for the hoses from the fire hydrant to each home. And if necessary, there will be turnarounds in the alleys. It's still something that the city and the developer are working through.
And just to add quickly, we'll have sprinklers in every home.
Yeah, and that's good to point out as well. It's a minimum requirement under the city's building code to have sprinklers in new single-family home construction. Probably, I think, multifamily as well.
Okay, and again from Jay, is the change from condominium development to a townhome an exception?
So I'll answer this one. So the term exception comes from the city's approval standards. It states that any exceptions from the minimum standards or minimum city code are necessitated by virtue of design or special amenities incorporated into the development. So we kind of abbreviate that whole term, that whole approval criteria to just the word exceptions. A condominium is not actually a city minimum standard. It is just the ownership type of the development as it's currently planned and arranged, and all the units are condominiums, and that's just an ownership style. Townhome, in this sense, we're just talking about another type of ownership style. Townhomes and condominiums often look the exact same. You wouldn't know it. You would say, oh, I live in a townhome, but you could live in a condominium, and that's what the 12 existing units are. So there's not a minimum city standard that requires this to be a condominium development. And so they're not seeking an exception to any standard to change it to a townhome ownership.
Okay, the next question is from JP, and the question is, what will the cost be to the city for this?
So good question, JP. I mean, there are a lot of costs that we usually don't put numbers to, like how many hours of staff time are on it, stuff like that. The only real hard numbers I think we could put out are the sewer and water, and based off your timestamp, that might have been what you were at when you typed that in at 6:52. And so the things that we're doing are the roadway and the sewer. Aaron, would you have an ability to say what the number is for your budget?
Yes, we are currently working on, and I'll just give the ballpark close number. Our budget for this, which we're still refining, in terms of what actual construction costs will be, is right around 1.2 million.
And that just go over the list of items you think that includes.
That 1.2 million includes the roadway improvements, replacing all the sanitary sewer. It includes replacing and installing all of the sidewalk up and down the sides of Green Court. And it includes resurfacing and replacing all of the curb and gutter in the private T section or alley that services the existing 12 residents.
Yeah. And again, that project's going forward regardless of the Thrive development. But we are trying to pair it together so that way we save the impact on the community from having to go in and tear it up a second time. And then Kelly, I see you have your hand up. Do you?
Yes, Jacob. I'm doing that out of courtesy. I don't want to interrupt.
Sure.
Thank you. So when you say save the community from the impact, previously I thought it was budgeted for 1.3 million. And this is, I'm just going to throw this out there. It's something that some of us homeowners have brought up, and Susan is probably not aware of this, but as part of the budget of the city, thank you again for considering our driveways and our sidewalks. I can't say thank you enough for that. Is there a possibility for the city to provide a slush fund to Holly Park community? I'm going to throw out a figure, just something that can help us to maintain the exterior of the buildings from the past 20 years, or to upgrade the existing current condition that we have, which is some poor conditions. And I'm going to just throw out there $50,000 that would help us to bring our community back up to a place where we feel good about. The exterior of the homes, a lot of the wood is rotting around the windows. And again, with our budget in mind from the HOA, we can't afford to do this. And yet this is something that will impair, I think, the appearance of the new community, Thrive, what they're doing. And I'm just going to throw that out there, and whoever is in charge of that budget, again, along with the driveways and the sidewalks, is there a chance that we could have something that would contribute to a slush fund for the Holly Park Homeowners Association?
Yeah, Kelly, so I'll take a quick stab at this, and then I think I'll have Aaron come in and answer a little bit more. I don't think that his budget could legally be used for that. And the reason why I say that is since that had to get approved by city council, it can only be used for what city council approved in that, under that budget action that they did. Aaron might be able to talk a little bit more about that, but there are some things that he can keep in scope or reasonably within scope, like the driveway. He already has to replace, I believe, half of your driveway just to do the sewer connection. And so that's why he can include driveway replacement in that. So Aaron, if you know more about the dispensing of the budget that you're given, feel free to jump in here.
Hey, Jacob. Yeah, you pretty much hit on the nail on the head. Right now, our project scope has, our funding has been approved, with our current scope and plan, which exactly like you said is public improvements, roadway improvements, and sanitary improvements. And I don't know, it might make sense to get Chase in here in terms of what, additional may or may not be contributed. I don't know if we're at that point yet, but, we are, once we do have everything figured out, we have to go to council once we have an actual construction bid for cost. So, even though we have council approval, this will require future council approval and will, of course, be open to public feedback at that time as well. And I can include the council date when we will take the construction contract for approval and our agreement with Thrive for construction as well, if that is something that's desired by the community.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. I believe Chase and I have discussed some major issues, and it appears that the city is willing to address many of these issues. I do believe also that our community might want to attend city council meetings in the future regarding this development. If you could just let us know when those are. But I have a plan to meet with Chase and someone else next week to further assess the commitment from the city of Westminster.
Sure. Yes, and thank you, Susan. This is Chase Evans with Economic Development. So I'll just echo what Jacob and Aaron already said. I agree. Unfortunately, the way the scope of the budget was already drafted, I don't think it's conceivable to really carve any piece of that out. So any additional ask or any additional funding would require approval from City Council. We can certainly evaluate that. I can take that back to the team and do a little digging on that. And yes, Susan, we are planning on meeting next week to kind of go through a little bit more of the on-site stuff with which driveways and the scope of some of the existing.
Sure. So, well, just an overall assessment of this meeting is that I don't think I just responded to all the homeowners today with your I'm sorry. With
the meeting summary I sent you.
Yep. And I sent that to all the homeowners today. And I think that we can address further issues when we meet next week and just try to stop all the banter and because
I would like to just say, can we just go ahead and propose this to the city council at this time? Let's just put it in there. I understand the budget that was already approved for the improvements of the roadway and the private drives and so forth. Can we just go ahead and put this proposal in there, Chase, to the city council about because we talked about the sod, and then we talked about why put sod down to bring our community back to the condition it was supposed to be in without the irrigation system up and running. And so let's just go ahead and propose that now to the city council. That, and then also this surplus funds, or I don't know what you want to call it, a slush fund or whatever, that will help us to bring our community up and assist us with our budget that we have for 12 units to maintain our community.
Certainly, and I think actually the first thing that I'd like to do is actually to discuss that with our city attorney's office. I think there are some ramifications as far as because of using any kind of city funding for privately owned facilities. So I can certainly look into it. That's really all I can promise right now, but I will certainly bring that request back to the city staff working group, and we will evaluate it. But I could certainly take down that request from you.
So I actually think moving forward, we're just like taking baby steps to come to a mutual agreement to ensure that the Holly Park community is taken care of at some point, probably not at all points, but y'all are willing to work with us moving forward. And I think that's the bottom line of this conversation.
That's correct.
Jacob, what do you think?
It is something that we do have to evaluate, because there are expenditure rules on how the city.
Sure.
And I can promise that Chase and I are not experts, and Aaron is not an expert on city expenditure allowances, and it
Who do
depends
we
on where
speak
the
to,
money
Jacob?
comes from. What's that?
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but who do we go to get this? If you're not the expert, if Chase isn't the expert, and it's not Aaron's feet, who is it? Is it our city councilman that we need to, as a community, to go to?
So all I meant on that was that we don't have the rules on dispending budgets and expenditures like that to private entities memorized. And
a private entity.
Come on now,
Not a
memorize
private,
them.
We are now we're urban. We're part of urban. You know, we were part of the city for all this time, these years, and we have been neglected. So we're really not private. And that was something that Susan brought up with Chase the other day, was that once we the road is resurfaced, who is responsible for maintaining that going forward? And Chase, you had mentioned that the city you would have something put down in writing that the city would maintain the street. Once it's resurfaced, again, we as a community, we don't have the funds to maintain it or what have you. And we're talking about the private drive, that T there. We don't have the funds to maintain that if something were to happen, or, and so you had mentioned that the city would continue to be responsible for that T, even though it's a private drive. Is that the case? And, really all of the proposals that we speak of and that you say we need something in writing that we too can have some legal representation look at for us as an HOA.
If I could just jump in right now. Chase and Sarah and I talked about the maintaining the T by the city, and I believe Chase agreed that the city of Westminster would be willing to enter into a signed agreement with Holly Park to address issues in terms of potholes or resurfacing, aside from snow removal, which would not be included. But I believe that Chase agreed to maintain those roads as best that the city can.
That's right, Susan. That is what we were talking about, and I think that the previous speaker was that Kelly. So I think to
Yes,
answer
it
your question of if Jacob and myself are not the experts to answer it, who is, that is honestly a lot of what Jacob and I's job is to coordinate with those that are. So I mean, to be honest, the person that we need to speak with is our city attorney. So that's what I was indicating, that as far as purchasing rules and regulations of what the city code says we can and cannot do, that's all of those questions are answered by our city attorney's office. So that's why I was saying I can't really answer any of that this evening. I'm happy to take down that request. I'm happy to forward that along and talk to those that are the subject matter experts in that area. We'd be happy to look into that and get a clear answer on whether or not that is or is not something that's possible.
Thank you, Chase.
I mean, technically, at the end of the day, all of these things that we have discussed for the last 2 years or more are somewhat exhausting. And let's just put some stuff down in writing so that our little community feels protected. And I think that's essentially what will make this transition move forward without a lot of problems.
Absolutely, Susan. I know we're still kind of early on and we're still talking through some of the details of several things. Yep. I think we certainly agree that whatever we end up agreeing to, that we definitely want to make sure that is in writing and make sure there's a clear record of it.
Of course.
There is no confusion down the road. So there's certainly agreement from the city side on that as well.
Kelly, anything else?
I don't believe so. Not at this time. I think Dave might be on. Dave and Donna might have some questions. Dave, are you on? Or do we cover everything?
Probably have to unmute himself.
I can unmute him. We do have one other question in the chat as well. So I've unmuted Dave. So
probably from JP.
Yeah, he's got 2 of them in there.
Who the heck is JP?
So I'll go ahead and read his. His first one is, what about snow removal, both green court and alleyways, and storage of plowed snow? And I'll just answer those so I don't have to bring Brad on. So green
You actually
court,
don't even have to answer them because snow removal will not be done in the T part of Holly Park condos.
Thanks, Susan. So for green court, the city would be responsible for plowing that. It would likely end up on a low priority list like most residential streets are, meaning it's not the arterials, and so it wouldn't be the first thing they plow. The alleyways, the new alleyways that are built would be required to be maintained by the homeowners association, and so they would be responsible for plowing it. The storage of the plowed snow, so there are multiple places to do that. One is at the very end of the alleyway. There is space and landscaping to do that. And then also up adjacent to the home units, there would be 7 feet on both sides of the alleyway between that and the actual garage face. So some room there for snow storage. And then his last question is timeframe for start of construction and completion. The developer has, and I'll just answer this so he doesn't have to jump back on, stated that they would essentially start that process as soon as they got entitlements approved through city council. And so, which since they're running the preliminary development plan and the official development plan concurrently, they could, do that, essentially get pretty fast through that. That likely wouldn't happen though until next spring at the earliest, and it could even be next summer before that. So the construction might not start until next spring, summer timeframe. I can probably guarantee that Brad doesn't have a more firm timeline on that because of the things that are outside of his control and even outside of staff's control too, timing for public hearing. So I have, Susan, I have unmuted Dave. He hasn't unmuted himself. So I don't know if he has a mic connected or could do that, if he had any other questions. And then I did see Jay earlier was typing comments in, so I don't know if he had any other comments or questions, but we can leave this out there. Oh, Dave, I just see you unmuted now.
Yeah, I really didn't. I wanted to just say that I think what Kelly's talking about is, it's called a reserve fund. It's not a slush fund. It's HOAs are required to have a fund set aside for major disasters and things like that where they have to fix. And with 12 units, they haven't been able to accumulate any kind of reserve fund. Had they had the 70 units, they would have been able to. And so I think that's the nature of the request. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood it. It's not a slush fund. And I think I heard right earlier where the developer said that the individual owners are going to be responsible for the exteriors of their own buildings. So that's kind of the situation that Holly Park HOA is in now as well. Did I hear that right?
That's what I heard, Dave, for the new development, that the exteriors would be responsible to the homeowners. Is that correct, Brad?
That's the current plan, and that's what we do throughout the city, where a homeowner of a townhome would be responsible for their exterior, and that's pretty typical for what we've done.
So the HOA.
We are not owners of a townhome.
Yeah, Brad's talking specifically about the new 58 units.
Okay.
But,
I'll shut up.
So Dave, I just wanted to elaborate on that really quickly, just so that way maybe Chase has this better written down. So you're essentially what you're trying to clarify for Kelly is that your HOA is asking for a contribution to create a reserve fund, because you're saying your HOA doesn't have a reserve fund?
That's correct. They're just able to pay the basic bills right now, the water bill, the trash bill. They don't have any money set aside for any kind of, if a roof goes bad or windstorm blows the siding off. There's nothing there for that. And so I thought, since the city held onto that property, or it was in transition for a long, long time, you look at all those years, if they had the 70 units there, they should have a reserve fund built up now to cover places as they age, and they're stuck without any type of funding. So I thought, if the city wants a deal to happen, maybe they could find the money to say, hey, this will help you a little bit, and we can just hope for the best the next few years and maybe have to raise their fees again. But they're at $225 now, and the new place says they're going to do it $150. So they're going to have the same problem in about 15 years if they're not able to accumulate a reserve.
And our plan would be to, as part of that budget, as an HOA manager would put away each month a portion of their monthly fees towards the reserve. And in the event that there were insufficient funds within the reserve, which is typical in other townhome developments, a special assessment would be charged on the building to do improvements that wouldn't have been coverable because there were no reserve funds. So that's kind of the agreement that we've done in other townhomes and would also do for Holly Park.
So that gives a little clarity to what they're asking for then.
Thank you, Dave.
And then we have one more question from JP. What about trash dumpsters and removal? So the plan right now for the development is that they wouldn't have trash dumpsters. They would just have individual bins for each homeowner, and then the bins would be stored inside their garage. Usually, I would imagine this is usually the way Brad sees a lot of his is the HOA contracts out for one single hauler. But I think that would be up to the HOA to continue in perpetuity. And Thrive wouldn't really have the say to force them to do that.
So not to really interrupt, but do we believe that JP is asking questions regarding the new development?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So the little Holly Park development people that are here could probably just say good night and sign off.
Yeah.
And you guys could spend all night answering JP's question.
Well, we will be ending at 8 o'clock. But if you guys, Susan, and if any of you or the owners would like to stay on, we'll usually just leave it open for a couple minutes, see if any more questions come in, and then we'll in the meeting. If you guys have any other follow-up questions for me, please, I know you have my email.
I think at the end of the day, Jacob, we all have your contact information as well as Chase's. And so if we have further questions, I think that we can do that aside from bombarding questions from JP.
Okay. And then Kelly, you had your hand up.
I did. I just, again, I'm curious as to what JP's interests are in this. I had asked previously who he was. He's got some very good questions, and so I don't know if it's something that's not able to be told. But what are his interests in the new development, and does he actually have any interest in Holly Park?
So I would suggest that as a member of the audience or participant in this process, that if JP would like to disclose his full name, that would be up to him to do that. And if he was interested in disclosing any other information, that would be up to him. And he could do that either by raising his hand, speaking verbally, or putting information into the chat box.
He did write a comment. JP says, "I love my city!" ! So
he's a city representative.
Right. JP's not probably a part of our community nor the new development. So Kelly's probably just curious who this guy is in our meeting. But
sure, he's not a staff member.
Huh?
He's that person is not a staff member.
You guys hired him. We're in a bunch of questions.
Well, and this is a public meeting, and we are streaming live on YouTube, so pretty much anybody can be watching or attending, and we don't close it off to anybody.
Right, but if JP has a voice, he should probably tell us who he is.
Well, so if you guys don't have any other questions, and I'm not seeing any extra ones come in,
thank you.
We'll give it another couple minutes there to hear any more, and if not, we'll go ahead and end the meeting so everybody can continue on with their evening.
Yep. Good night, guys. I'm out. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for attending.
And I don't see any extra comments coming in, so I'll just go ahead and share some closing information here. Information everybody's already seen. So again, just a recap of where their applications are in the process. So it is a preliminary development plan application, a PDP amendment, and ODP amendment, official development plan. They've both gone through first staff review. The city has provided comments back to the development team on that. We're at the neighborhood meeting stage. After this, they will resubmit both of those documents for additional staff review. And then the PDP itself would need to go to City Council and Planning Commission for review and consideration. If that's approved, then city staff could approve this ODP amendment. And then after those, they would go through the civil construction drawing and the building permit drawing to get those both reviewed against the building code and city engineering standards. And then those are administratively approved as well, if they meet the criteria. This is my contact information. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you have about this or about other developments. That's my email address up there and my phone number. I try to respond within a day as possible. If you have any other comments or questions that we can answer here, please feel free to contact me there. And with that, I think I'm not seeing any extra comments come in. I think we can go ahead and wrap this up then. So with that, I'll say goodbye and good night to everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.